What is up, everyone? Today is a big day because we are going to do a full breakdown of Genshin Impact version 6.3 or Luna 4, which is just around the corner. And this update feels less like a patch and more like a turning point for the game's story. I will also cover 9 major details you might have missed in the live stream, which happened a few days back. So, new regions, long-teased factions stepping into the spotlight, and a complete philosophical shift in how one of Genshin's most neglected elements works. We are going to cover everything, but without taking much of your time. Now, do note that this update drops on January 14th, so let's unpack what it actually means for Teyvat. So, before we begin, do smash that subscribe button and a quick word from our sponsor. You can actually save up to 25% on latest banners through Lootbar. Personally, I lost my 50/50 and I just bought the 6,480 Genesis Crystals pack for $76 instead of $100. That's an instant $24 saved. Not only the discount, but the top-up process couldn't be easier. I entered my UID, selected my server, and within 2 minutes, the crystals arrived in my account. Plus, the double bonus for first-time purchases has been refreshed with the anniversary, so you can take advantage of that too. With over 100,000 satisfied users with 5-star rating, it's really my go-to choice for both personal top-ups. And here's a bonus. New users get an extra 10% discount, while returning users can save up to 5%. You can find the link in the description below or in pinned comments, so don't miss out. Now, we're getting a brand new Archon quest, and this time the narrative isn't subtle. We're finally confronting a figure who's been quietly framed as a sadistic manipulator, someone who treats living beings like test subjects rather than people. The radish imagery isn't just for shock value either. It ties directly into themes of cultivation, control, and artificial growth that have been bubbling under the surface since Sumeru. This boss isn't just another weekly fight. It's clearly positioned as a recurring symbol of Teyvat's obsession with forcing perfection, no matter the cost. And then there's the Traveler, who finally feels like an actual character in the story again. For the first time since the game launched, the Traveler is getting new outfits. And lore-wise, that matters. Clothing in Genshin has always represented affiliation, growth, or identity. Just look at the Fatui or the Archons. These skins mark a shift in how the world sees the Traveler, and maybe how the Traveler sees themselves. On top of that, each elemental alignment now grants permanent stat bonuses. Anemo's crit rate reflects freedom and precision, Pyro's attack embodies raw ambition, and Cryo's crit damage strongly hints at emotional restraint and inevitability. The Cryo bonus especially feels like narrative foreshadowing. Cryo Traveler isn't just coming, it's being set up as something dangerous. Now let's talk about the character who quietly redefines the entire update, Columbina. She isn't just another harbinger, she's treated like an Archon in everything but title. Her design, her animations, and especially her burst all point to a being who perceives reality differently from everyone else. When she opens her eyes, the world bends, not explodes. That's important. This isn't brute force. This is perception-based power, the same narrative space occupied by Celestia, the Shades, and the Sustainer. Columbina doesn't fight Teyvat, she overwrites it. Alongside her is Zibai, a Geo sword user whose combat style leans heavily into illusion and myth. The spectral horses she summons aren't random flair. In multiple real-world mythologies, horses are symbols of transition, conquest, and divine authority. Giving those to a Geo character, a vision tied to contracts, permanence, and legacy, feels deliberate. Zibai doesn't just fight for territory, she enforces it. Her role as an on-field DPS fits perfectly with Geo's evolving identity as an element of dominance rather than defense. Then there's Iluga, the new 4-star, who might look like comic relief at first glance, but don't let the bird bazooka fool you. Birds in Genshin have consistently represented messengers, surveillance, and fate. From Celestra's imagery to Seelie lore, flight equals knowledge. Iluga firing birds as weapons is absurd on the surface, but thematically, he's weaponizing information and positioning, which makes him a surprisingly clever support for Geo teams built around control and setup. And this brings us to the biggest lore shift of the update, lunar crystallize. Geo reacting with Hydro to create moon drifts isn't just a gameplay change, it's a symbolic one. The moon has always been tied to forbidden knowledge, lost civilizations, and pre-Archon history. By tying Geo, a post-Livestrea element, to lunar mechanics, Hoyoverse is blurring the line between the old world and the new. These moon drifts acting autonomously feels intentional. Geo is no longer passive, it remembers, it moves, and it retaliates. Of course, Lantern Rite returns, and as always, it's doing more narrative work than it lets on. The free pulls, primogems, and character selector are great, but the real win is that Lantern Rite stories are finally being archived. We Use festivals are more than celebrations, they're oral history. Preserving them means Hoyoverse wants players to see how contracts, gods, and mortals shaped Teyvat over time, not just in the present. Now let's talk about banners, because they tell a story too. Columbina and Arlequina in the first half, followed by Zibai and Nuvalet in the second. Authority versus rebellion, law versus perception, justice versus inevitability. These aren't random pairings, they're thematic mirrors. Hoyoverse wants you to feel the ideological clash before you pull. We're also getting a major update to Millie Astro Wonderland, letting players embody characters like Hu Tao and Shang Ling in custom worlds, which fits perfectly with Genshin's growing meta-narrative of players becoming co-creators of Teyvat. And, finally, we get a teaser for 5 upcoming characters, including Varka, whose absence has loomed over Mondstadt's lore for years. His return might finally reconnect Mondstadt to the wider conflict brewing across the continents. So the question isn't just what you're pulling for, it's which side of Teyvat you're aligning with. Are you here for control, freedom, perception, or legacy? Let me know your theories in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for my deep dive Columbina lore and kit analysis. We are getting close to 1,500 subs, and let's aim for that. Well, that's all for this time, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!